Lawyers, what's a case you regretted winning? Family law is a little different in that you never really win per se. You may get more favorable rulings or better terms, but unless the opposing party did something illegal or mind-bogglingly stupid, it's never a decisive win really. Although I did have a case where my client fought really hard for the dog, and then ended up turning him over to a shelter. Fucking asshole. The ex-wife received an anonymous tip and was able to get him back quickly. So the fight wasn't even for the dog, it was just to take something she loved away from her. Jesus, divorce really can bring out the absolute worst in people. It really can, but there's the other side too. I've had couples who genuinely cared about the other person's well-being and wanted me to make sure they were provided for. I've had clients who let their partner keep the pets even though it killed them, but they knew how much they meant to the opposing party. There's good and bad in all of us. We choose which we want to be. As a personal injury attorney, I've seen a few clients win the blue-collar lotto or getting more money than they reasonably know how to deal with. I do my best to educate them, but my job is to try and maximize their recovery, not teach them finance. I have definitely contributed to a few drug habits. The one where the client never paid. Edit, clarification explanation. When I was a young associate, I was assigned to do a civil commercial trial for a client that was not happy with the senior partner. He stopped paying. We moved to withdraw. The court refused to allow us to withdraw and forced us to go to trial. Spend a significant amount of time in trial prep, etc. I win the trial. Client never pays. Client's position was that my boss screwed up the deal and that there never should have been a dispute trial to begin with. Firm policy prohibits us from suing clients because that causes a drastic increase in malpractice premiums. 9 times out of 10 if you sue a client for non-payment, they will countersue for malpractice. I was in for jury selection a few years back, and they were doing a voir dire of a business attorney in the box. You don't do any criminal work, correct? No, mostly real estate law. Okay, so what do you know about the practice of criminal law? Get the money in advance. Did a divorce where the husband, who I was representing, wanted to trade custody of his children for a set of bedroom furniture. The bedroom furniture was not even like a family heirloom. It was furniture that you could probably get at a Rooms to Go or something. Still makes me ill. That's why I got out of family law. Edit, I'd honestly like to thank all of you for your various points of view on this particular pain point in my career. For the record, yes, I did win that particular point, but it did not fill me with any joy. But, those who said that it was probably for the best, perhaps you're right. I do juvenile work, criminal law and family law. I represented this client first when he was a juvenile charged with disorderly conduct at school and fighting, then when he became an adult it was for simple things like possession of marijuana. As he got older, it became easier and easier to figure out what part of his life hasn't gone as well as it could, and I tried to counsel him and push him to better himself. He got his GED, he started going to NA, he started classes at a community college, and found a part-time job. On the night of his 21st birthday, he was charged with a DWI. Of course I'll take care of that too. About 6 months later, we are due in court for trial, on a Monday, and he doesn't show up, which at this point in his life is highly unusual. As I'm trying to figure out where he is, the court starts going over arraignment's first appearances, and then lo and behold 3 people are up for murder charges. The prosecution starts to tell the judge what the facts circumstances of the case are and mentions a few victims' names. Apparently, my client was at a party when these 3 individuals decided to allegedly do a drive-by shooting. My client suffered multiple gunshot wounds and didn't make it to the hospital. So by default, as you can't prosecute a dead person, the state has to take a dismissal. I guess technically a win. Either way, it was crushing to me as I thought he had really turned his life around. He had. Edit, wow, this really blew up. Thanks for all the positive comments. And the bling. Also, since some people asked for clarification or were confused. 1. I truly believe he was on the right path forward. 2. GED equals high school equivalency diploma. 3. NA equals Narcotics Anonymous. 4. DWI equals driving while impaired. Prosecuted a murder case. 21-year-old kid starts dating an older guy's ex-girlfriend. The older guy, real roughneck, loose connections with a local biker gang, was going all over his small town talking about how he was going to kick the kid's ass. The older guy sends some nudes of the ex while he's getting drunk at a bar, so the kid says something smart-ass in response. Older guy comes to the kid's house to fight him. The kid shoots him once, and the older guy dies. Jury didn't buy self-defense or castle doctrine. Convicted of voluntary manslaughter. 20 years. Burned up his appeals with no luck. I have a son about the kid's age. I could totally imagine him doing the exact same things if he were in a similar situation. Shit's going to haunt me until I die. No doubt about it. Started thinking about other work the moment the verdict came back. Women wanted her daughter custody. We used the state preference about custody going to the mother judge bias, her improved economical situation, and some minor garbage like her grades and discipline problems at school to discredit the dad. Not even a month after we won, the mother calls and says she had a problem. Then she explains the problem was that her BF raped the girl, and after that she had the gall to ask we pick up his defense. One of the things that made me quit to go work. That poor girl. Her mother has totally failed her. This happens very often, and the shitty mothers never get jail time when they let it happen and do nothing. So the children are still in danger because the system is so stupid that it thinks women are automatically better parents rather than going on case by case. Sometimes it's super obvious which parent is better, or when neither parent will be good for the child. I'm sorry, this is why men need more rights as fathers, which is literally all men's rights is about. There are so many fathers who get screwed over and men who aren't even fathers, but because their name was placed on a birth certificate by the mother, they get screwed over until they can get judged with brain cells. I'm sure it happens, but you rarely see good mothers get overshadowed by shitty fathers. There's equal amounts of shitty fathers and mothers, but the shitty mothers get way more access to their kids. A ton of people really just need to stop having kids. Was representing the government at a social benefits tribunal. The applicant was an autistic man who was struggling to make ends meet but was trying his absolute best to contribute everything he could to society. He had a job where his manager was very accommodating and he was a very sympathetic person. He just wanted the extra cash to make his life a little easier for himself. Sadly, he didn't qualify for the benefit, but I think he deserved it. My closing argument was that no matter how much we empathized with this man, no matter how deserving we thought he was, he simply didn't qualify and the tribunal had to apply the law. He was unsuccessful, and when I left the building to head back to my office, he was just sitting outside on the curb crying. That image has stuck with me for a few years. Pretty heartbreaking. Edit, for those of you that are sending me words of support, thank you. That was the lowest point in my career and I have moved on. It's really important to remember that mental health in the legal profession is a very real issue that is killing people. There aren't sufficient supports in place to help people like me and many others who find themselves in positions like this. For those telling me I'm a horrible person, you literally can't say anything that will make me feel worse about this, so please have some compassion. I work elsewhere and provide a much-needed service to my country and my community. I also donate to a mental health charity on a monthly basis. What are you doing to fight unfair systems? Also, in case you aren't aware, social benefits are a finite resource. Often, the criteria for qualification are strict. Not everyone can receive it, otherwise there wouldn't be enough to go around. The particular system I was working in was a needs-based system. Those with the most severe disabilities met the criteria and I often advocated on their behalf despite the government's initial position if I felt they met the criteria. There was a case that I saw that involved a claim with fee shifting, meaning that if the plaintiff won, their attorney's fees would get paid by the defendant. Defendant pushed an aggressive legal position at trial that the judge agreed with, and won, avoiding a few thousand in liability to the plaintiff and a few thousand in attorney's fees. So far so good. But then the plaintiff appeals all the way to the state's high court, requiring a ton of briefing and time. High court agrees with plaintiff, reverses and sends back to the trial court, which now enters judgment against the defendant for a few thousand in damages against the plaintiff and tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees from the appeal. The defense lawyer probably regretted winning at first on that aggressive argument to the trial court. In one of my first cases after passing the bar exam, a young man retained me on a drunk driving charge. No one was hurt, but he totaled his car. During trial, the arresting police officer testified that my client was clearly drunk at the accident scene, and that my client was loudly blaming the accident on the fucking asshole who stole his car, crashed it, and then fled before the cops arrived. However, according to two other witness statements tendered into evidence, it was my client's friend, the passenger, who was screaming about the asshole who stole the car, not my client, the driver. The cop must have confused the two men during his testimony. This discrepancy raised a reasonable doubt in the judge's mind, so she acquitted my client. At the time, the acquittal was somewhat unexpected for me. In my personal view, my client was clearly drunk and responsible for the accident. Regardless of who was blaming the mystery asshole to the cops, but I was happy my young client got off, no one was hurt, and lessons were learned. And I was quite euphoric to have won my first criminal case. The regret? About a month after the acquittal, my young client called me at 3 a.m. from the police station saying it's me again. The police arrested me for drunk driving again. Can you help me? Not only did I answer no, I instantly regretted getting the earlier acquittal. My client apparently didn't learn any lessons. Had this happened to me twice. Got my client out on bail only to thereafter have him up and killed. First time, he was in building supposedly selling, got chased by the police and a struggle ensued where he was shot point blank in the head. Mother told me that it was my fault that he was killed and that I was working with the DA and the police. Second time, a young man no more than 16 gets released while waiting trial on robbery. One of the conditions of release was that he maintain a curfew. That very night he breaks curfew, goes over to somebody else's house and was killed in a drug-related robbery. Mother blamed me and said that the devil was working through me, that we were all demons. Criminal defense is a hard business. Edit, thank you everyone for the kind comments. Rest assured I don't take what they said personally. I've been around a long time and know that they were just acting out and that I just happened to be the closest person at the time and the only one who would actually listen to them. Edit 2, lol, yeah, I can see how that reads like I might be talking about my mom. Going to leave it because of the lol, but for the record my mom thinks I'm a saint and can do no wrong. Edit 3, to the people saying that got what they deserved, honestly it's easy to throw stones, but drugs, alcohol, mental illness are tough things. GD willing none of you will know what it's like. Edit 4, to those saying criminal lawyer bad etc, it would be easy if the world was just and the government never overreached. Who you going to go to when it's your turn to be ground under the wheel? I won a summary judgment motion that my firm filed not expecting to win. We had a decent argument, but odds were way worse than a coin flip and judges don't like granting summary judgment because it's an extreme remedy. Client initially was thrilled, case is over, we tried to break the news gently, nope. 3 years later we're back in the same spot we were before we won our motion. The other side appealed it up to the state Supreme Court and won, because the Supreme Court said the trial judge should have denied our motion. So, we are back at square one. North of $100,000 in legal bills, with no resolution. Maybe it'll settle, maybe it will go to trial. I'll find out in the next 3 to 4 months. Excuse my ignorance, what's a summary judgment motion? Eli 5 terms if possible. It's a time in the lawsuit when each side thinks they know all the facts there are to discover about the claim and the defenses. One party, usually the defendant, says based on all these facts, even if they're true, I still win because plaintiff can't prove his case. You file a motion asking the judge to review all the facts, not a trial and not with witnesses, it's all done on paper. Reviewing expert reports or witnesses is under oath deposition testimony taken usually months prior, and ask the judge to say, yes, all these things are true. But it is not enough to show a violation of the law, party filing the motion wins. And you do not proceed to a trial. Do not pass go. Do not collect your contingency fee. That's a lawyer joke. A contingency fee is what sometimes winning lawyers get paid only when they win. I'm a work comp attorney. Now represent injured people, but used to work on other side insurance defense. There was an applicant with a serious injury. Fell off a ladder, busted back with fusion, shoulder fucked, years of treatment. Internal issues, psych issues really just fucked up. 50% plus permanent disability. We were 5 years in and finally getting to settlement time. If we bought out his future medical, settlement pretty far into 6 figures. This guy was the sole provider for wife and 2 kids. Then we found out he had aggressive brain cancer. Expected only couple years to live, at best. Thus, we wouldn't buy out future medical anymore. Still got permanent disability for $60 cash but can't give medical buyout based on 25 plus year life expectancy anymore. I felt terrible for the guy and his family. Me and the adjuster tried to get insurance to agree to some sort of amount like 5-year buyout, but the bean counters said hell no. The attorney knew it wasn't me making the decision. Even though he worked on that guy's file for 5+ years, he decided to take $0 in fees. I have so much respect for that attorney turning down $10K plus in fees to help his client in a very shitty situation. This probably won't be the best answer, but it is a real one. After law school I had to turn down a criminal defense job offer because my wife got a better offer somewhere else. So basically, I followed her along and was desperate to find something. After 3 months of fruitless efforts, I would take just about any job that required a JD, whereas literally the only thing I ever wanted to do was criminal defense. 3 months after moving I got an interview for a real estate litigation job. They hired me the next day. Looking back, that was probably red flag number 1. First day on the job they taught me how to foreclose on a claim of lien. These are 2 things I had never heard of before. Turns out, it is totally brainless work if you have the right forms, mind-numbingly boring, basically just cutting and pasting new addresses and amounts owed. So anyways, it took me about 2 months to realize this, when I had my first set of hearings, but literally my sole purpose at the firm, which represented over 100 homeowners associations, was to take people's houses away for not paying their homeowners association dues. After my first set of foreclosures, I actually slipped into a pretty legitimate depression. I was getting paid peanuts to drive nearly an hour to work every day to do work I despised on behalf of people I literally could not pretend to care about. The straw on the camel's back was when I started signing the foreclosures and realized I was that guy. You know? I understand someone has to do the work, I guess there certainly is a lot of money to be made, but it was not for me. I did that job for 3 months, came home one Friday, and told my wife I'd rather be homeless than go back on Monday. By some stroke of luck, I started a stellar criminal defense job within 2 weeks, and all of the heartache has 100% been worth it. I've won a lot of cases. You have to redefine winning and losing when doing criminal defense, because sometimes even a particularly juicy plea is a win-emo, and never once felt bad about it. For example, I got a guy's plea deal cut from 60 years to 15 years for a string of robberies where the interrogations and confessions were overwhelmingly unconstitutional. Like, the interrogations were textbook How Not to Do an Interrogation, Missouri v. Seibert, and stuff like that. Never lost sleep over someone not going to jail. So yeah, every case where I took someone's house away, probably 24 times, for not paying her fees, generally $4,000 or less, was the worst case I ever won. Fuck hoers. Third-year law student in a clinic. I came into law school with a very clear moral compass. I knew what I wanted to do, criminal defense, and I had very strong feelings about the death penalty. I thought there was never a situation that warranted it. Cut to me working in my school's death penalty clinic. The way the clinic worked was that you'd typically be assigned 1 to 2 clients, review their case, visit them, and do research at the discretion of the supervising attorneys. I had one client, and his case will haunt me for the rest of my life. Goes in for life after a really brutal assault on a teenager during a burglary, proceeds to move to more and more secure facilities after numerous guard stabbings and an escape attempt. But that wasn't what got him the death penalty. See, while my guy was in Supermax, he managed to slip his cuffs, beat a guard to death with a metal bar, and throw his battered corpse down the stairs. All of this is on video. There's no question he did it. So the jury deliberates for like a day before they give him the long goodbye. By the time I get the case, it's about reviewing his eligibility for the death penalty. So I dig into his case file for the testimony that appeared at trial, and there's all this stuff about huge problems with his cognitive ability and like his actual brain structure. So, with the supervising lawyers okay, I do a little independent research, consolidate all the different testimony and map it onto a brain. The conclusion I come to is pretty simple. This motherfucker has less than half a brain. Through a combination of drug use, abuse, and birth defects, roughly half of my client's brain just is not present anymore in any meaningful way. Including all the centers that regulate hormone production, fight or flight response, and threat assessment. I find a bunch of medical reports where people with just some of these conditions get severe behavior imbalances, and in at least one case psychotic episodes. Basically, I help establish that this guy has the kind of diminished capacity that makes him ineligible for the death penalty under Atkins. If he's successful on an Atkins claim, then he is structurally ineligible for the death penalty. But do I feel good about helping to probably save this guy's life? Fuck no. Because it means he's going to be in a Supermax forever, and he's already shown that he can kill people in a Supermax. If he doesn't get the death penalty, he'll still be in prison for life, and I can almost guarantee that he will injure or kill another guard during that time, probably multiple ones. But if he's put to death, we're executing someone who really isn't meaningfully responsible for their crimes because most of their brain is gone. He never had the option to make the right decision, or make any decision, because of his incredibly extensive brain damage. It's out of my hands now, but they are appealing, so it's gonna go before the court eventually. I drank a lot that semester, and I'll never do death penalty work again.
Sinister V's, sinister voices. Yo. Action-packed Black Mac 10, Jr. and his friend, not a pot to piss and starving brothers on a mission. 2:30, brilliant plan to route a tow booth. GW Bridge, got the weapon concealed, nothing to lose. They choose to break the rules at all costs, stick them in Jersey. Hit the other side to New York, black and red leather suits and black biker boots. One got the gun, the other one controls the motorbike. Adrenaline pumping, dreams of cash. Anybody try to stop them getting lead in their face, believe that. Black Pack.